Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the next in our series of Reveal webinars. So today we're going to be talking about the basics behind great search engine optimization. I'm going to take you through a whole bunch of things around search engines, how they work, what things you can do to impact on that. So we are going to dive straight into it. I'm just going to give you a bit of context as to who we are. So this is me. Let me flip over so you can see me on the cam. Hello. So I'm the digital director at Big Wave Media. We're a Google partner. I'm Google Squared certified. We're also a RA recommended agency. So what we're going to do is take you through search engine optimization, and just to give you the context as to where we're coming from, we're going to just look at a little bit about the sites that we look after. So we look after about 300 plus websites, and that's across 450 locations across the UK. So in terms of what we're going to go through today, there's Google, so what Google is, why Google is there, Google search, how search engines like Google work, as well as things like Bing, SEO improvements, so what things can you actually do to improve where you are at the moment and what you're doing. Look at the search results, and we're going to have a look at what those search results actually show, and therefore how you can impact on that. And we're going to talk a little bit about Google and some of the other products and services that it offers, but we're mostly going to focus on what search engines are and why or how they work. So let's dive straight into it. So in terms of Google, so Google has an overarching mission statement, which is to organise the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Now, it's kind of grown out to have quite a range of different services and products over the course of the last few years. Many of you will be familiar with quite a few of them, probably use them in a business context and a work context. So in terms of the primary goal, though, across all these different services, it always has been pretty much static, which is to organise data. So when you think about data in terms of your own content, in terms of files and folders and shared files, things like that is data. In terms of your search results, in terms of organising the world's search data, obviously that's massive, but that is at core, all related to organising data. So where Google are at, there's 3.5 billion searches per day across Google, that's absolutely crazy. It's an insane amount of people searching. For most people, it does form the entry point to the World Wide Web. You know, most people do start their entry point at Google. We do look at other search engines. So across an agency perspective, we look at other search engines and things like search engines like Bing and Yahoo, but most searches are carried out on Google, and that's why really you kind of need to play by Google's rules, and that's certainly an adoption that we have. Google is responsible for facilitating a number of different areas that have kind of spawned off the back of search, really. One is advertising, so 80% of net users can be reached by Google ads, which is pretty phenomenal, really. But there's a load of other areas that have kind of sprung up, some that have formed industries. So you've got semantic search, which we could do a whole webinar around semantic search. So semantic search is about the contextualization of your search. So if I was to go and search for pizza, then contextually my devices, my location, the time of day, all these kind of things could add up to contextualize why I might be searching for the word pizza. So if I'm searching for it in the middle of town, my location is based in town. If it's the middle of the day, then contextually I'm probably looking for somewhere to eat, so probably a pizza restaurant. If I'm searching in the evening and I'm at home on a desktop, then that may well be contextually related to me searching for a takeaway or maybe a recipe. So contextually your results could be different depending on where you are, what kind of device you're on, what kind of topics you're looking for, and a whole plethora of other measures and metrics which we'll touch on a little bit. So out of this is born search engine optimization, SEO. It's an industry that has kind of sprung up and been gathering momentum for a number of years for obvious reasons. As people have that entry point into SEO, they clearly want to improve that and to gain more visibility. And alongside this, there's a number of tools that Google offer, which we'll touch on again in a bit. So Google Search Console, this is a tool for webmasters. Google Analytics, which is a tool for marketeers and also developers. And Google Tag Manager, which is really squarely a role for marketing managers, but also lights into development as well. And finally, Google My Business. And some of these are things that will be relatively easy for you to set up or to utilize. Some of them you may need particular skill sets or technical developers to do that. So we are going to have a look at some of the search results that you may get. So this is probably a very familiar type of search result. I've punched in the keywords marketing agency Exeter. You can see we've got an advert showing at the top. So that's a paid for advert using Google AdWords. Then we've got map and listings. So we've got Google Business and Google Plus. Profiles that may come into there. And then you've got organic and natural SEO optimized listings, which are formulated from most of the topics that we're going to talk about in a bit. But there are opportunities to improve your reach on the other ones as well. There's also some other views you might see on Google search results. So there's featured snippets. So this is answers box. So you might have seen Google is seeking to satisfy questions to relatively quick response answers for quite a number of different searches. You'll see it pop up in a number of different type of keyword guises, but you also get a people also ask box, which is extended answers. So it's relatable search queries to the keywords that you've punched in. You'll hear me talk a lot about keywords, so that is effectively what you talk about when you talk about Google search. People are using keywords. So whilst contextually as humans we're using a string language, so a sentence or a series of words strung together to form a cohesive approach, in reality they're all individual isolated keywords that could be put in different orders or different randoms or joined up, and so your results will also depend on the way that you ask it. So we're not going to delve too much into that, but we will talk about the importance of keywords and options and opportunities that you have around that. So, search engines and the algorithm of destiny. So the way that a search engine works, you have spiders that go out and they crawl the internet. They basically go from site to site looking at links off to other websites, and that's effectively how websites are crawled and pulled into a Google database. So in terms of a spider, obviously it clearly isn't an actual spider. That would be quite freaky if there were lots of spiders out there wandering the streets looking for websites. But in terms of what it actually is in principles, it's obviously a computer program that goes off and links from one site to another. What it then does is pull that information back into a centralized database, obviously a relatively large and probably fragmented database, but a database nonetheless, that's starting to catalog information from all sorts of different sources that are relatable back to keywords. And then finally you have a relevancy algorithm that then works upon what keywords people are searching for, popularity, and all sorts of different metrics that may lead to a particular website showing up for a particular keyword. So in terms of those algorithms, Google uses over 200 ranking factors to determine where a page should rank, and there are major algorithm updates that are dropped every so often. They tend to have pretty quirky names like Panda and Penguin and Hummingbird. And each ranking factor takes into consideration a different factor that may or may not be a reason why your website might surface to the top of certain keywords. So we're going to go through some of those. In short, you can tie each of those into particular types of areas, which we can talk about in a second. So effectively, what is SEO? Well, SEO is an inbound marketing discipline. So this is effectively you trying to get traffic to your website, credible traffic, relevant traffic, quality traffic, effectively coming to you via the search terms that people are utilising. And that's effectively all it is, but there are lots of nuances to how that may or may not be achieved, which are hopefully the things that we'll shine a light on. So in terms of the different areas that you would need to think about, we got on-page, off-page, content, keywords, reporting, and click-through actions, click-through optimization. And we're going to take each of these sections and go into them individually, look at what things you could be doing to improve it, maybe why certain things do happen there, and we're also going to look at some action points that you can put into place to remedy some of those things or get things moving. So we'll start with on-page. So on-page is the things that happen on your website. Off-page is things that happen off your website. Very cleverly termed there. So we've got quite a few bullets for each of these different areas. Now some of them are quite technical, some of them are relatively logical, some of them are tools or platforms. So I'm not going to dwell too much on each one, but we will just kind of run through each one as a kind of base point. Page speed optimization, passing a Google speed test. So this is how fast your website loads. There might be lots of reasons for that. It might be down to your server, it might be down to compression on your site. So there could be lots of things. That's more of a technical area, but you can test it through a Google page speed test, which you can find if you go and Google it. And then you've got things like W3 validation, so in terms of accessibility, 404 and 500 errors, which are inaccurate errors across the site. Broken links, which can be easily fixed. 302 and 301 redirects, so if you've got pages that should be redirected to other pages, is that set up? Image optimization, so have you got really large images that are taking up a lot of download time or a lot of download space in terms of being just too big? Content cloaking and duplicate content fix. So, and this is a big area. I think this quite often is a surprising one for some people. It's quite tempting sometimes to create duplicate pages, sometimes by accident, but to create it by, say, having multiple facilities or multiple locations, and that can be remedied relatively easily. There are things like malware and spam tests that you can take. Robots.txt, which is a file that goes to that's looked at by search engines, and that could tell it certain things that may or may not be happening on the site that a search engine needs to know. Crawl errors. So you can find crawl errors quite easily using Google Search Console, which we'll come back to in a second. And mobile user experience, which you should be aiming to get up to 100% as per Google guidelines. Now again, there's a tool that you can use to check that. So the tool for that is called the mobile friendly test. If you go and utilize or try this, just Google it, because the URL for it's quite long. But just punch in mobile friendly test, plug in your URL, and then it will give you a report, and it'll tell you the percentage of mobile friendliness, and tell you whether your site's up to scratch. Things change, the world changes, technology changes, development changes, so you might have a website that was launched as mobile friendly, and at this point in time Google may not view it no longer as mobile friendly. So it's always worth checking it, even if you had a mobile friendly build maybe a year, 2 years ago. So in terms of action points, make sure your website is mobile friendly, run a speed check, set up a Google Search Console account. So this is free. You might need a developer to do this, but it's definitely worth doing it, because it will give you a whole load of flagged up errors or issues that are across the site that you may need to work on. Fix everything then, so whatever it flags up, fix it. Again, you'll need a developer to do that. Check for broken links. So have you got any URLs that go off to error pages? Did you move files around or move around download documents? Did you change the menu structure and things haven't been repointed? Always worth checking. It's surprising how much that can happen. Create a sitemap. So if you don't have a sitemap on your site, you can either publicly place one, or you can submit one to search engines or make it available to search engines. And you can submit your site to search engines as well. So you can actually make a submission to Google to re-index, and to other search engines, to re-index your website, so that it comes along, has another crawl, has a look at the site, and marks it down and databases it. As we move into off-page, this is, as the name suggests, not on your website. This is off-page. So these are third-party websites. So things like directory listings. So off-site mentions will be typically things like directory listings. If you've got any tie-up with partners that are linking back to you, so they've got your address and they're linking off to it, then that's an off-site mention. Quite a lot of organisations will have directory listings, so it's always a good idea just to keep them up to date and keep them consistent as well, so making sure they're linking through to the same pages, obviously depending on what it is, but it's surprising how often things like phone numbers change and then people don't update it. So just from a kind of a logical operational perspective, it makes sense to be regularly auditing, or at least checking those off-site mentions. And then you have things like competitor link research. So what websites are linking to your competitors? Are there opportunities there? Are there very specific directories that are linking to your competitors, or very common websites where your competitors are getting listed or being talked about? Typical examples that we would tend to see would be things like Primary Times or NetMums, from sort of kids relatable products or services. They're popular forums where people will talk about particular products or services and will link back to the website. So have a look at what your competitors are being linked for, and what sites are linking to them. See whether you can get linked on the same ones. Then you've got things like your own backlink profile. So what websites are linking to yours? Are there opportunities to look at some genuine cases to get links back to your website? One word of warning is you do need to make them credible backlinks. So they need to be relevant to the content. So it's no good just having your website linked off your mate's website or a partner organisation that doesn't really have any relevance to you. So if it's got a page that's saying it might offer this, but you link through and then it goes to a page that doesn't offer whatever it was that you said, or it was from an unrelatable website, it's probably not going to be worth doing that. You may well get penalised by Google for doing that as well. So it needs to be a credible, worthy link. Clean up links that may lead to an algorithm penalty. So like I said, Google may penalise you for things like that. We see quite a lot of organisations that about 2-3 years ago, maybe further back, put a lot of time and energy into doing backlinks, which were just on any kind of random website that would literally link to their website. They've now, or in the course of the last couple of years, would have been penalised for that. And you quite often see penalties that shows just a complete sharp drop-off of traffic to a website because it's fallen foul to a penalty. As and when those algorithms get dropped, you can quite often find that what was working yesterday is no longer working and is now maybe against a particular algorithm logic. It means that you need to unravel some of that work, or you need to reconfigure it. So from our SEO guys' perspective, they're always on top of what they're doing. So they're having to keep up to date with changes because things can change so rapidly. And there's some really high-profile cases like Amazon that completely drop out of search because there's an algorithm penalty that either they weren't prepared for, or they'd been doing, not necessarily this with Amazon, but organisations have been doing things that perhaps at one point were seen as maybe okay, or were done as a bit of a dodgy way of doing things, and then there's better processes to check on that kind of stuff. So the algorithms are great because they will get rid of the cheats, and as a genuine business that's genuinely trying to drive the right traffic to your website, then you would be fine adhering to those policies, and they will work for you. Social signals is such a big thing as well, not just on search across other platforms as well, but social signals are, in terms of SEO, primarily related to things like reviews, so review sites, score rating sites, relatable back to social media sites as well, and social signals from those kind of sites. So basically it's like the validation of you as a business. So what do people think about you? Are you a good business? Are you a great business? Do you offer great products? Is the feedback good? Is it positive? No one wants to see negative feedback, obviously. If you think about going and booking a hotel, like everybody does this, and it's really, really weird, kind of weird logic. But if you go to book a hotel or a holiday, and most people will go to TripAdvisor and look at the score and the ratings and the feedback from people, and if it's got something like 100 reviews, 97 of them might be really, really positive, but there's like 3 really negative bits of feedback. People will go, I'm not going to stay there, it's a terrible website, or a terrible hotel destination. But actually there's like 97 good positive feedbacks, and that far outweighs the 3 negative ones. But people dwell on the negative ones, and it is a social signal that people follow. It's a weird part of human nature, but it is a part of human nature, and you kind of need to kind of go along with that. So trying to gain positive feedback is obviously great. There are paid systems that you can use for it. You can use free ones, like on Facebook. It's got its own rating system for pages, and obviously TripAdvisor is free as well, although you can pay for extras and stuff. And you can integrate all those things into your website. So there's lots of ways of kind of moving that so that people have visibility of it. The other thing you can look at is influencer outreach. So this is third parties that are recommending your products or services. Now that may be directly or maybe indirectly. The most obvious example of it is a blogger. So an influential blogger, so maybe someone that is always writing about food, about restaurants perhaps. If you're a local restaurant, you might want to get them along because hopefully, provided your service is good and your food is good, they're going to give a good review, and then all the people that follow them will go, oh, that's a great place, and then they might think about booking it. So influencer outreach is a really high potential route to getting out to get more people aware of your product or service, and to get good traffic through to your website. Obviously you want them to link to your website as part of that. And the final thing in terms of off-page is looking for quality links. So I know we have talked a little bit about quality links. There are kind of point scoring systems, if you kind of think of it like that. So .edu and .gov websites will carry much more weight than say a .co.uk or a .com link. So if you can get linked to by a .gov website, because obviously it's a trusted platform, trusted website, whatever it links to, it's going to be assumed that it's a trusted website that it's going to. So getting a link from a .gov or .edu, so universities, any of those kind of organisations, will be a good quality link. So if you have any partnerships with government or educational establishments, then try and use that. Try and see whether you can get links back to your site. Obviously it depends on the type of product and service you've got. Sometimes you can do things like white papers, or you can involve surveys or some form of research that you've done jointly together, and that's a way of kind of working towards gaining those kind of links as well, and also providing credible and quality content, which is a great thing to do. So in terms of action points, firstly, get quality links. So make sure if you are linking, which you should be, then get quality ones. Use local authority and education partnerships that you may or may not have, but try and grow them if you can. Find influencers. Who is best placed to be seen as an influencer and can promote it? And can you link via social? So in terms of content, as we go into the next batch, there are a whole host of things which are probably the more easier things to work on, because you have probably got a content management system, or you'll have access or an ability to edit or change some of this stuff. So the first one is your kind of classic metadata. So page titles, descriptions, the URL structure. I'll show you an example of those descriptions, titles in a minute. The internal linking structure. So you shouldn't link too much internally, because ultimately you want people to come to the right information the first time, rather than saying go here, go here, go here, go here. So checking your linking structure, making sure you're not doing it too much. There's a balance that can be struck with that. Google will penalise it if you're linking too much internally. Remove any duplicate content. We have mentioned it, but just make sure that you don't have duplicate content across your site. Might be a difficult thing to do if you've got lots of locations and you share the same kind of information, but they can be written differently, or you can set up some information for Google to outline what is being classed as duplicate, and for it to ignore it. Schema.org markup. So this is a standardized way of marking up so that it makes it easier for search engines to view your website and to kind of crawl it. Facebook and Twitter open graph optimization, video marketing. So definitely would suggest that you consider video marketing if you're not doing it already, because you can generate some fantastic traffic, particularly through things like YouTube, but also just natively through to your site and through the data around what you label your videos and so on. Blog and content marketing kind of bring up the rear there, but are kind of the front line. So in terms of driving traffic to your website, I think we've got a screenshot here. Companies that blog have 97% more inbound links. That's from a HubSpot report. So it's phenomenal the amount of traffic that you can start gathering by using blog content. And it gives you the opportunity to build up quite credible information across your whole business that you can use in other ways as well. So if you've got regular blog content, then you've suddenly got content that you can push out as part of a newsletter. If you've got newsletter content or blog content, you suddenly then got content you can push out through your social media channels. So there are lots of different ways that you can reuse your content and use it to really push and promote what you're doing. And just from one bit of work, you get quite a lot of mileage out of it. So blogs and general content marketing are a really effective route to driving traffic, but giving you content across lots of other areas of your marketing. Finally, channel setup. So what channels have you got? What channels do you need to look at setting up? So have you got a YouTube channel? Obviously, if you're going to do video marketing, you want to start using YouTube or Vimeo or any other kind of online platform. What social channels have you got set up? I mean, tying it back to the right audience is kind of the key. So, if you look at our one of our other webinars on social media, we talk quite a lot about targeting the right audience and using the right channels for that. So please go and check that out if you want to look up more about that kind of side of things. But getting your right channel set up is imperative, but tied to the audience that you're trying to reach. So action points. Review metadata, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. Video, and I could say content as well. Remove any duplicate content. Set up a blog. It really is simple. If you don't have the capacity to build it into your main site, then you can set up a separate one, and you can do it relatively easily without any development knowledge through platforms like Blogger or WordPress, so any of those kind of bloggy platforms. It can be quite quick and easy to set up. It may not look the best, it may not be integrated into your website, but it gives you a starting point to kind of build on. So here's an example of search results. So this is where the metadata comes in. So here you can see a search for electricians in Exeter. The one at the top is from Yell, and so the blue bits are the titles. So it's telling you what's on the page, and you can optimize those. So the one at the top, the Yell one, they got a call to action in there. So they got get a quote, tells you the website that it's on, which you don't necessarily need to have, but they've used up their space to do that. And they've covered off two areas as well. So one, you'll notice that it's relatable to my search, so electricians Exeter, but they're also covering electrical contractors as well. So a different market, and they may be using the same keywords to kind of target that. So a relatively good one there. And then their description just gives you more information. So it's got a call to action to request a quote. You can see the ... which means that they've added too many characters in there, so they could have trimmed it back down a little bit. There's a use of bold as well. As you get a bit further down, if we look at some of the other ones we've got, you see there's about four sort of tradey directories, and then only one actual electrician. So the Boyd King. So if you're Boyd King, then you're obviously doing a relatively good job in terms of your SEO. Well done, you. But you could improve your description there by including call to action, maybe outlining your services a little cleaner, removing duplicates of words as well. So with the Boyd one, you could increase the amount of characters in that title, maybe put a call to action in there as well, and you could remove repetition, so you don't need to say the name of the company again in the description, you don't need to say Exeter, you don't necessarily need to say electrician. So you could improve that a fair bit. The one at the very bottom has a very good call to action. It's got a free no obligation quote and 24/7 call out. So it's kind of stapling to the mask what they do, what they offer, in a relatively good way. So as we move into the next block, keywords, which I mentioned at the start, was a fairly important one, because this is relatable to effectively how people what people are searching for. So keywords, you want to create natural variations and synonyms, which is such a hard word to say. So natural variations. So think about the text. So you don't want to create duplicate content, and we know that. It's hard to do that if things are very similar, but creating variations of it can be done, and can be done relatively easily. But you want to also create natural variations in terms of the language that you're using. So you might use a very structured kind of corporate approach to your language. Actually, when people search, they use maybe fragmented or question-based searches. So I might ask a question of how to fix a plug if I'm trying to solve something. So is that information on an electrician's website? Now, you may say, well, that may not be a good example. That might be a very small job and might not be relevant, but you kind of get the principle of it, that people will search in different ways than most people who are managing the website think about the text content on their site. So thinking about variations, thinking about the way that people think in terms of how they might go about searching for your products or services, using locations as well. I would search for something in Exeter if I needed a local person. Do you have even those keywords on your website? Does it say that you're Exeter based? What other areas do you cover? So building that in as a natural part of the text on your site is a really important thing to do. Fleshing out content and providing context and meaning to search engines. Really that kind of goes alongside the natural variations. It's about putting context into the content on your website. So are you providing good quality stuff? Are you providing good quality content? If I land on your website, am I going to actually learn about what it is that I was trying to find out? Or do I have to work a bit harder and go through a couple of clicks and get directed across to other parts of your website? Clearly you want people to move through your website and to get through to the conversion as quick as possible, and so it really is a logical thing. But actually from a search engine perspective, if you're sending people off and they have to click and go through different pages and so on, then that is a bad experience. Google won't like that, because it means people that have found that result are going to have that bad experience, and so you'll start dropping out of search for those kind of keywords. Second to that, structure your content into themes, and this kind of goes alongside those other two really. You need to make sure that your content is structured in a way that it is easy to navigate, which just makes sense from a user perspective, but also you want your content to be in these kind of set silos. So if you're talking about a particular product or service area, then have all that information in one place. Don't scattergun it across the website, don't link from one place to the other. Kind of create a cohesive approach to the way that you're providing your content, and it means just talk about it all in one place rather than in 5 different places. And it kind of makes it easier from a management perspective, because everything's clearly kind of outlined, which is a sensible thing to do just from a sanity perspective. Carry out some competitor keyword research. So have a look at what your competitors are ranking for. Now there are different ways of doing this. I'm going to show you a couple of tools in a minute that are actually incredibly useful for lots of different reasons. One of them, because you can look at keywords in terms of what the kind of volumes are. One, you can look at it from a locational perspective, and 2, it will give you lots of ideas of other relatable keywords that you could build in as natural variation, or you could build in as part of your content. Second to that, carry out keyword search engine tracking. Now, this does involve paid systems, so you do need to have some paid systems for this. So it's not going to be achievable for everybody unless you want to put budget into it. If you use a search engine optimization agency, then obviously they'll do all that for you, but there are ways to do it. And finally, our action points on here, and I will show you these examples in a second, is use Google Keyword Planner. So this is a free system. It is part of Google AdWords. You have to have a login for it. You have to have an account. But there is another tool you can use which is free, and I'll show you that as well. And use analytics. So look at actually what people are looking at on your website. Are they bouncing off your website? So if you ever looked at Google Analytics, you'll see a bounce rate. Bounce rate is an indicator, a percentage of how many people land on your page and then disappear off your website. So How often are people coming onto your website, landing on that page from a search engine, and realizing that actually the content on that page isn't the content that they were expecting to see based on the keywords that they search for? So just having a look at that kind of data gives you an idea of what's going on, what's working, what's not working, and you can hopefully kind of move forwards with improvements there. But Google Keyword Planner, this is an example of it. So if I use it and search for a marketing agency with the targeting base of Exeter, then I can see the search volumes. I can also see associated keywords. So you can see on here we've got digital marketing agency, digital marketing companies, and that list goes on and on and on and on. So there are obvious variations along a similar theme that actually people are searching for. So if I was to go and optimize my site for marketing agency Exeter, actually I could be missing a huge amount of traffic from people that are searching for marketing companies, digital marketing agency, and so on. And whilst I might capture people on kind of broad searches, there could be very specific and niche searches that actually I could be becoming highly visible for, and actually could be the ones that could convert people to signing up for a product or service far better than the broader search terms. So this one you do need to log in. So it's Google Keyword Planner. Have a search for it. You need an AdWords account or a Google account to be able to access it. It's good because you can drill down by location, you can drill down into keyword association as well, and you can see search terms, and you can see how much it might cost you if you were to pay to advertise. So you can see here, digital marketing as a keyword, set of keywords, suggested bid £3.39. Now that's pretty high in relation to sort of the average kind of pay-per-click cost, but it changes by industry fairly widely. So it does depend what industry you're in. The other one that's relatively easier to use is Google Trends, because you don't need to log into it. Just go to Google Trends, just search for it. I think it's googletrends.com or something like that, or trends.google. And it will show you search results, and you can drill into those search results. So rather than being a portal to actually find websites, you can actually look at what people have actually been searching for on Google, and you can interrogate that data. You can see some amazing stuff. There's some really funny examples where people have compared search results, and they've made parallels between the amount of people searching for donuts and the rise of gun crime in the United States and things like that. So there's some really interesting correlations of data that are probably completely irrelevant. But if you kind of tie the two things together, it's quite amusing. But the kind of base principles of it, you can interrogate search data. So if you want to plug in a particular product or service that you're thinking of launching, you can see how popular it is. You can see the peaks and troughs of when people search for that. So if we look at the Chartered Institute of Marketing, you can see over time, over the last sort of 3 years, the amount of search volumes for Chartered Institute of Marketing has been going down, only slightly, but it's been going down. You can see the peaks and the troughs. So the really big troughs are over Christmas, over that Christmas week. As you would expect, and as you probably see for most sites actually, but depending on what kind of site you are. So obviously people aren't interested in the Chartered Institute of Marketing at Christmas, but you can see the peaks and the troughs of when people are interested in it. Now from a competitive perspective, maybe that's a competitive advantage. If you're launching a new product or service, then you know roughly when is the best time to launch, when are people looking for it. The troughs might actually be when people buy. So you have a kind of trough after people have purchased. So their decision making may start 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, maybe a week, a day, 2 days before they actually make that purchase. So using this data, you can interrogate quite a lot and get quite a lot of data insight. It's an amazing tool to use. And then we come into our final section, which is click-through rate optimization. And this is all about trying to make every visit to your website count. So at the end of the day, you want people to buy from you, and that's the reason why you've got a website. You want to deliver information. You may not be an e-commerce site, but you want people to fill in a form. You want their contact details. You want them to get in touch with you, maybe through your telephone number rather than through an email form. But at the end of the day, you do want people to convert to sales, and that's the primary requirement of pretty much most websites. So how do you go about doing that then? So there are a few things that you could do. One is to look at the on-page content optimization. So what content are people actually looking at? What is driving traffic to your website? Can you improve keywords on there? So this all links back to a lot of the other areas that we have been looking at. But it's just about optimizing your content to be better for the end user. So don't send them off to 3 different pages to find the same bit of information. Have a call to action on the same page as the information that they found. Things like that. Second one is user engagement optimization. So trying to increase the engagement of the person that comes onto your site. There are lots of amazing tools you can use that can track what a person does on your site. If you use or go to search for user analytics, you'll find a whole plethora of systems. This is basically looking at what are actually people do on your site. So where do they actually mouse, try and click on what works, what doesn't work, through to that next click, what makes that convert, what kind of things are doing that. And then next one is A/B testing. So A/B testing, where you effectively have the same process, and you may try a different approach with one or the other. And a really basic example of that would be to use colour. So you might have some button, like an amazing button, and you want people to click it and say buy now, or contact us, or whatever. Maybe you try one that's yellow, one that's green. Which one gets the most clicks? Maybe green, because people go, and that kind of pushes them over the line. Maybe yellow works better because aesthetically it looks nicer. Maybe if you try red, people won't click on it because it looks really negative. So there are lots of little nuances that may or may not work, but by A/B testing you can try 2 different things at the same time and see what works, and then choose the option that works the best. After this, it's all about looking at your data. So there may be a whole range of different data sources. Most of this you could probably pull out of analytics. So we've already talked about bounce rates, exit rates as well. What pages are people leaving your website on? If you know that, then you start to understand where that journey is ending. You might start to then understand why that journey is ending. So is the information that they're expecting not on that page? Is there no call to action? Is there something fundamentally wrong with it? Is it a broken link? All sorts of things that may cause people to disappear from your website. And then once they've gone, you're not going to gather that data back. Action points for here are to mystery shop your customer journey. So just sit in front of your website and just run through it like you're a potential customer. What is that journey like? Just imagine you want a particular product or service. Imagine you come onto the site from, say, a search engine, or you've been given the URL direct. What does that journey look like? What does it feel like? How easy is it for you to find that information? Is it all there? Is it in one place? Are the keywords relevant to you? Is the content relevant to you? Is it good content? Is it actually giving you the right information? Is it helping you in any way? Is it going to make you want to come back maybe a bit further down the line? Are there any engaging things on the site, like a calculator, so I can actually work out costings now? Does it give me the costing straight away? Do I have to fill in a form? Have I got to make a phone call? What's that journey like? A/B test. So have a go at A/B testing, even if it's just a button. Just see what happens. You may be surprised at how vastly improved those conversions could be. Review your analytics data. So go and have a look at what's actually going on in terms of the data set. So are people leaving a certain page? Is your bounce rate really high? Is that what you could set as a measure to improve what you're doing over the course of the next couple of months? So what can you do to improve? What is that data telling you? What is happening when people come onto your site? And you can get pretty much most of that through something like Google Analytics. If you use Tag Manager, you could be a lot more insightful in terms of working out a cost per conversion. So you can work out exactly what has driven people to the site, how much in theory that has cost you, depending on whether you've got it set up against your costed advertising systems or platforms. But yeah, reviewing that data, you can get so much information. So we've got a final summary. And then we've got a tool that you can go away and just run straight away that will give you some information. So 10 actions to make. Optimize for mobile. Make sure your website's up to scratch by Google standards. Set up Google My Business. It's a free account. Gives you your map location, opening times, all that kind of stuff. Set up a Google Plus profile if you haven't done so. That ties into my business, but if you are using Facebook or Twitter or so on, you use any kind of social platform, just pummel out your content via Google Plus as well. It won't take you any more extra time, and it will just build up a profile. Review your metadata. Have you got call to actions on your descriptions or your page titles? Use Google tools like Console and Analytics. Submit your site to Google. If you haven't done so already, your web company should have done that. If they haven't, then do it. If you made big updates, do it again. Use Google Trends and Keyword Planner to work out what tools and what keywords are driving traffic to your website, or could potentially drive traffic to your website. Set up a blog. Use the knowledge from the Keyword Planner to inform the words you use in there. Set up Search Console. If it hasn't been done already, you may need your developer to do that. And finally, trial pay-per-click. If you want quick results, try Google AdWords. We can offer free AdWord trials, so if you want to test it, we can offer some vouchers towards that if you want to have a go. But yeah, try it, and it'll give you insight into keywords as well. And finally, if you want to run an SEO checkup, we've got a tool that's on our website. So go to bigwavemedia.co.uk/SEO checkup. It will check your score in terms of an SEO score on your website. It'll give you a score out of 100. It'll tell you a handful of things that are good and are indifferent, and things that are bad. And it'll give you a report that you could pass on to a developer, or you could take note of internally to try and improve your score and to get your website higher up in the search results. It's a free test. Just visit /SEO checkup. Plug in your URL, and it will give you an instant report. If you want to download a copy of it, then you can fill in your details. Good conversion technique, but you can download a copy of that. Otherwise, you can just view it on screen. So we hope you found this useful. I will leave that up for a second or two. Visit our website if you want more information. Check us out on Twitter at Bigwave Media. Check out our website or check out our blogs. We've got other webinar series that you can check out as well. Last one was on social media, and we will be doing more in the future. But if you require anything in terms of SEO, then we are here and happy to help. Otherwise, we hope you found this useful, and we hope that you'll catch up with us again on our next podcast. So thank you for joining us, and cheerio.